Amazon goes nuclear with plans to generate more power for its data centers. We all go gaga for SpaceX, but not so much for robots. And the FTC aims to help consumers get out of subscriptions. We're going to talk about these stories and more on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. The guy behind the monitors is Chris. Hello, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
We also have another guest here, but we're not allowed to say who he is. But, hello, sir.
He's the man in the corner.
He's going to be the man in the corner. And joining us once again this week as guest co-host is RJ Bardsley. He is a partner and co-CEO of Wireside Communications and a veteran of the tech industry landscape for more than a few decades. Welcome back, RJ.
Hey, guys.
I was going to give the number, but then I felt like I don't like to always tell people how many years I've been covering this industry. I mean, you could figure it out if you watch enough shows, but I wanted to be a little bit respectful so that you're a veteran, but you're not you're not a, what was the legend? No, wait, legacy. There's a word in there that makes you feel like you're really, really old.
Yeah, I'm not legacy yet. So yeah. No Walker, no Payne, not quite yet.
I think veteran is okay. I think you can be a veteran without actually considering the age of the person. So I'm trying to be respectful because we've done some episodes around ageism in the tech industry, and so I want to be respectful of that as well. So it's more about your expertise and knowledge more than the how old you are, right?
Right.
All right, let's jump into the first big story of the week. Amazon has gone nuclear. They are going to invest more than $500 million to develop small modular nuclear reactors. The Amazon Web Services division is investing more than $500 million in nuclear power, announcing 3 projects from Virginia to Washington State. AWS, which is their subsidiary in cloud computing, has a massive and increasing need for clean energy as it expands its services into generative AI. It's also part of Amazon's path to net zero carbon emissions. AWS announced it has signed an agreement with Dominion Energy, Virginia's utility company, to explore the development of a small nuclear reactor, or SMR, near Dominion's existing North Anna nuclear power station. Nuclear reactors produce no carbon emissions. An SMR is an advanced type of nuclear reactor with a smaller footprint that allows it to be built closer to the grid. And they also have faster construction times than traditional reactors, allowing them to come online sooner. Now, the reason that this is such a big story, I mean, obviously it's Amazon, but also, they're following suit, the latest large tech company to buy into nuclear power to fuel the growing demands from data centers. Earlier this week, Google announced it will purchase power from SMR developer Kairos Power. Constellation Energy is restarting 3 Mile Island to power Microsoft data centers. And we've all heard about Sam Altman, his plans from OpenAI. He's basically saying that in order to get to the next level of AI, artificial general intelligence, all of this stuff, that we're going to need more than just, we're going to need a power grid. Plus, we've talked on this show many, many, many times about the drive towards electric vehicles means that if you're going to be putting all of this power on the electrical grid, you're going to need something more than wind and solar farms. So, is it finally like tech is finally driving this need towards nuclear power? I obviously grew up in the 70s and remember the whole 3 Mile Island incident. And, there was that movie, The China Syndrome, that got everybody freaked out about nuclear power. Chernobyl happened. So, it felt like the industry had a black eye for a while. But since then, I think the industry has been pretty good about safety and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so RJ, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, I want to feel like this is a good idea, but I think that we've all forgotten, right? There is still no good means of disposal. Spent rods are still kept on site or maybe somewhere in Nevada. We don't have a solution for that. So, I live on Cape Cod Bay, and there's a major corporation trying to decommission the Pilgrim nuclear power plant. And they're trying to dump the stuff into the water, like in Cape Cod Bay.
Oh, well, that's not good.
I want to like this idea.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a big environmentalist. I'm a big proponent of of a carbon-free future. But until we come up with a better way, I mean, there's a lot of radioactive isotopes that are going to be floating.
Yeah.
around.
Now, in addition to, the idea of generating some more nuclear power, I think that the small reactor idea is fine. Again, I don't know a lot about the safety part of it. But if you can develop something that, a little bit faster than what it currently takes, as long as you're not cutting any corners, I mean, that would be disastrous. I think that I was reading some other stories that this uses molten salt instead of maybe plutonium. I mean, they use a different type of material. And then when I was reading the Wall Street Journal story about it, there were a lot of comments about, well, small modular reactors have been used by the Navy since 1950s for a lot of the nuclear subs that they have. So I just find it fascinating that the reason that we're finally now, kind of going back to nuclear is because of huge data center needs and this artificial intelligence movement, which kind of puts some of the environmental concerns off to the side, which, I guess it depends on what your take on that is. But
did you have visions of The Matrix, the movie The Matrix, when you were reading this?
No, I didn't. Like, what's the Matrix connection? Oh, because we're going to use human batteries?
Yeah, human batteries.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that need that AI has for power is just going to be like the end of humanity. I don't know. I don't want to be dire about it.
Let's go down that rabbit hole. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's no evidence that we're not living in the Matrix, RJ. We could, my body could actually be somewhere in a thing in the future. Again, I don't want to jump that far. The other thing I was thinking about was within the last year, there was a lot of developments for nuclear fusion rather than nuclear fission. And, there were some major breakthroughs, I think, at MIT. Obviously, they had that first breakthrough and they haven't been able to, we're not even close to commercialization or any kind of, mass production or scale of this yet. But, at least they're not trying to,
catalyst. Maybe this is the catalyst for that. I mean, you look at what happened with SpaceX and commercial spaceflight. The minute we sort of created a market for it, it exploded. And maybe the same thing, like maybe AI drives this incredible need for nuclear energy. And we have a, pardon the pun, an explosion of innovation and we get really good fusion reactors.
Right. And, I mean, obviously the tech industry, if they put their mind to something, I think they can, and again, there's been so much bad news about big tech lately. So I want to be optimistic about this idea of, being able to solve, at least one problem, for the need for power. But then that, again, maybe that then helps the electrical grid. And then we all start buying more electric cars because now we have better places to power this up.
Yeah.
Chris, you're just kind of staring at me. I know that, do you have any thoughts on this? I mean, shouldn't we be optimistic about this at all, Chris, or not?
About what, nuclear?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think it's understandable. People have a lot of fears with nuclear because you see all the disasters and stuff that can happen and stuff. Right. But I feel like, since those have happened, we've probably learned a lot. From our mistakes, right? From Chernobyl and the event that happened in Japan.
Oh, right. The Fukushima. Yes. But so here's an example. That Fukushima disaster, and again, they're still, I don't think they've completely cleaned that up yet, but that triggered a lot of technology innovation in the robotics space.
Yeah.
Because, there was when I was working for Computer World, 5 or 10 years ago, somewhere in there, there was a DARPA grant challenge for rescue robots that could go into a nuclear power plant. And, so they needed robots that could drive a vehicle, get out, walk, turn a handle, so for like future disasters, the robots could go in there where you can't get humans. And that development led to a lot of other innovations in the robotics space. So sometimes you can get something bad or good out of something that's bad. And so, maybe that's finally what we're seeing in the nuclear space, that like maybe they will, like you said, they'll invest more in potential mass, nuclear fusion, because you're right. The waste issue still is an issue. I mean, I'm going to make a flippant joke about maybe we could shoot it into space, but
I was actually just going to say with Elon's new, rockets, SpaceX rockets, just do that.
Yeah.
You can create your own new nuclear garbage waste disposal operation there.
What a great segue into our next story. Or unless you had another thought, RJ.
Well, I was just going to say this could turn into an Elon Musk world, right? Because we could use the Falcon Heavy to get it up there. We could use the Optimus robots to really handle any accidents. So, this could turn into a whole Musk conversation.
Geez, it's almost like he's playing chess while the rest of us are playing checkers here. Like maybe this is all part of his grand plan. But it is a great segue into our next story. And I know this story is a little old, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this. SpaceX, their Starship test ended with this remarkable chopstick booster catch. Basically, the video. I don't know if you can. Are you allowed to play the video, Chris, while we watch this? Oh yeah, this is a GIF of it. This is
GIF.
The GIF, whatever. Basically, for the first time ever, their Super Heavy booster returned to the launch pad where the launch tower caught it using arms that SpaceX has nicknamed the Chopsticks. The remarkable catch was a first for SpaceX and an important step towards making the Super Heavy booster a fully reusable launch system, just like their Falcon 9 rockets. The booster completed a similar set of maneuvers during its previous flight test in June when it splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico instead. The flight test was delayed 25 minutes while SpaceX waited for its launch range to be cleared of boats. This was the second full Starship launch flight and return to Earth. The craft re-entered the Earth's atmosphere about 45 minutes after liftoff and carried a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Basically, what everyone has been saying is that obviously being able to reuse this booster rocket saves a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
When you're developing, space flight, and obviously, this can, for trips to the moon, trips to deploy back and forth for satellites and the space station, and an eventual Mars mission. It just feels like this is a really, really great achievement.
So
yeah,
we're just real quick. I don't understand. I don't understand this. So we can land a 23-story rocket because that's how big it is. Like when we're watching this video.
Yeah,
here,
I don't think. It is weird that you don't get that scale from that video, but it's almost like a skyscraper, right?
Yeah. So 23 stories. Yeah, it's a good sized building.
It's a good sized building. Yeah.
And we can land this in between 4 rods, right, on this metal tower. But people today can't park straight in a parking spot. I don't get it. Like, have we just given up on the human race? We're just totally now invested in robots. Like, let's make robots perfect, yet we can't even park straight.
I don't even know how to respond to that. I mean, I knew you were going somewhere with this, but like,
I mean, that's valid. It's valid.
It is a valid point. Like, but there are cars that will help with parallel parking now. I mean, we did develop a little tiny camera in the back of the car that allows you to try to parallel park better.
Yeah, but still.
Is there a beeping sound that gets increasingly frequent when the rocket's almost at the right spot?
That's not yet. That's coming in a new update patch.
Well, and were the chopsticks that caught it, were they autonomously catching the robot, or did you have a couple of engineers with a joystick, almost playing like a game of trying
at that point, it doesn't really, either or, it could be whatever. It's probably automatic.
I hope it was automatic, and I hope it's like, that obviously we're joking a lot on this show, but I hope it's not something where it's a case of where this had to be done manually. I mean, even manually, it's impressive, right?
Yeah, I'm more impressed with this if this was manual.
Yeah, that's true.
That's pretty talented there.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys know this, or the one thing I was thinking of is with that much energy going through the rocket, obviously it's still propelling, it's still kind of hovering. When you're talking about a reusable booster, is there any internal damage that happens inside this, this big giant rocket to make it less reusable? Because again, and again, I think here's my dumb analogy: if you reuse a bottle, several times, eventually it degrades, right? So I'm wondering if there's any degradation that they might have to be concerned about. And again, it's way over my head at this point.
Well, look at your car.
Okay.
You fill your gas tank up every day. You drive it around every day. You have ice combustion engine that parts move. You just got to maintain it. So, I'm sure.
The oil in those, if they change the oil in those rockets every 3,000 miles, they're going to be fine.
But again, so I'm also the generation that watched the Challenger explode, for example, in 1986, and so that's probably where my mind went first when I started thinking about reusable.
I mean, you got to think, like, you're looking at this rocket, and this is probably the most over-engineered vehicle that exists right now on the planet. I mean, think about it. Like, we've seen BMW, we've seen Audi. Yeah, German stuff's a little over engineered, but to be able to do that, fly out of space, come back, that's got to be bulletproof.
Yeah,
that's got to be bulletproof.
Here's another tough question. Could this have happened if it wasn't for the privatization of space? Like, if space, do we think that NASA would have ever been able to do this? It feels doubtful that they would have been able to kind of.
Probably would have taken maybe twice as long to do it.
And how many times expensive? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was a brilliant move, right? Like privatizing the space industry. It's, if you look back into history in the late 1920s, it's exactly what they did with the aviation industry, with I think it was called the Postal Act, where they privatized airmail, and it drove all of that innovation in aerospace. And I think doing the same thing in space is incredible. The thing I love about this, besides the fact that it's just so cool, is it's giving us a bigger future to look forward to. Colonization on the moon and on Mars. I mean, it sounds like stuff that we all grew up with, and hopefully it is, right? Because that's amazing. That's thinking big and looking big, and we need that. We need that as a country. We need that as a planet. We need those kind of challenges.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, when I was growing up, I mean, it was the tail end of the moon landings, and that's, the early days of the space shuttle. And then after that, after the Challenger accident, there was a little hold for a while. I love the idea that NASA wants to go back to Mars for these Artemis missions, because they finally discovered that there might be some valuable resources on the moon, in the forms of ice and water and things like that. So, I'm all for exploration, and I'm for this idea of a Mars colony at some point. I think that they should start with the moon at some point. But again, a lot of these technologies that are being developed, again, when you look at it's almost like the forest and the trees thing. Like if you look really, really specific, you don't see anything. But if you look at the big picture, it's like, oh yeah, these are connecting, and we can use this. Like you said earlier, like you've got those Optimus robots that and then you could deliver all the nuclear waste out into space somewhere, and yeah. Until that gets hit by an asteroid or a meteor or a comet or something. Or maybe that's what triggers the aliens to finally come down and talk to us. Another segue for you. Here's so we were talking about these Optimus robots. So last week on last week's show, we talked about the Tesla Cybercab. I think they're calling it the Cybercab. It was the Robotaxi. Cybercab's actually not a bad name. I kind of like that. But at this press event or media event where they had these Optimus robots, part of its in-person Cybercab reveal. The robots mingled with the crowd, served drinks to, and played games with guests, and danced inside a gazebo. And they could even talk, but this was mostly show. It's obvious when you watch the videos from the event, of course, if Optimus really was a fully autonomous machine that could immediately react to verbal and visual cues while talking one-on-one to human beings in a dimly lit crowd, that would be mind-blowing. So one of the attendees posted that he learned that humans were remote assisting the robots, later clarifying that an engineer had told him the robots used AI to walk. And another person said the robots relied on teleoperation, which is human intervention. And so I don't know. I mean, at first I was like, I don't like this idea of, I don't know if they were trying to trick the crowd or not. Like you said, it's obvious if you're attending, like, yeah, these are teleoperated. But I was covering the robotic space for a while, and there were a lot of those delivery robots like Starship and some other companies out there that were delivering food on campus to different groups. And it was really disappointing to me to find out that a lot of those were teleoperated. There was another company that came right out front and says, we're teleoperating it just because we want to they were teleoperating autonomous cars, in fact. I don't know if the company's still around or not, but obviously it's disappointing when you feel that something might be autonomous and then they're not. I just think in this example, maybe it was so obvious that these were being operated remotely.
Yeah, I had such mixed feelings when I read this. I come from a marketing background, and I've done a lot of device launches, and you have to walk this super fine line between showcasing what the device is and then showing your vision for the future and what your vision might look like. And I remember first when foldables were first coming out, and Samsung had a foldable and they had it behind a glass case, and foldable mobile phone. So I respect that they're trying to create this vision and show what they see the future looking like.
Right.
But the problem is they just dug themselves a hole, because there's going to be so much skepticism here. And the next time they go out to showcase any sort of robot product, they're going to have to answer a lot of questions that this launch brought up. So what's real? What's fake? What can you really deliver? I think if it was anybody else besides, a Musk company, there'd be a lot more blowback on this.
Right.
But be able to roll with this.
This is similar to what Tesla was doing with its autopilot. When they first started coming out with autopilot, everybody else that was covering the autonomous vehicle space was like, this is not fully autonomous technology. The autopilot, you still needed to be behind the wheel. You still needed to pay attention. You still needed to keep your hands on the wheel. And what happened was a lot of the customers either just didn't get that advice, or they didn't hear it, or they ignored it. And you had people starting to, read books while they were driving, or they were watching movies. And then all of a sudden they're in an accident. And then, how many of those Tesla autopilot accidents is the NTSB investigating? There's a lot of them out there. And so, putting something out there again, I know it sometimes you have to leave it up to the end user to be like, okay, obviously I know that this is not real, but there are a lot of people that fall for this stuff, and they now think that there's an actual robot bartender that can serve drinks. I'm just glad that they weren't like humans inside the robots, like with a big boxy robot. Like,
I kind of thought that's what it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like a bunch of people in robot suits, like C-3POs, and
I mean, look, even if it is teleoperated, it's still impressive. It's still very impressive.
Especially with the manual dexterity, and again, I've seen some teleoperation technology that also does that. So maybe we should focus on the achievement there, like you said, Chris. Like having a teleoperated robot able to pull the what do they call it? The tap. Thank you. Pull the tap down.
Well, you probably already mentioned it, but I think what he was trying to do, Elon, is to just try to help paint a vision of the future, what it could look like. And I think if that was his goal, I think you hit it out of the park. Like if you can, manufacture and design your robot to function in a good way, it works, right? Even if it's teleoperated, at that point, you've done 50% of the work. The other half now is just to get it to operate autonomously, on the cloud, right?
It's the other half that's the really big problem. That's why you need.
It's like you've designed the robot; it functions properly, has dexterity and all that. That's really cool. That's really cool. And I think what was it? The director of iRobot had some beef with what Elon did because his designs are very similar to that Will Smith movie.
Yeah.
Based in the future,
based on a book by Isaac Asimov.
Yeah. It's like it's very similar. But
I think the big problem is that the story becomes poking holes in this rather than the story about the.
Right. We're talking more about the fact that they were human operated rather than going, wow, human operated robots, look at the dexterity and can pick up a cup and not drop it and pour from a tap. Like that would have been the cooler story. So maybe the mistake they made was not actually announcing that in the beginning and saying, these are all human operated robots, but look what these things can now do. And maybe in the future.
And I would have just marketed it just simply, glimpse of the future.
Yeah. Okay. See, we should all go work for Tesla marketing now at this point. All right. I don't have a good segue for the next one. All right. So we're going to talk about canceling subscriptions. So consumers often complain that getting out of a subscription or gym membership is like navigating a maze. Federal regulators have mandated that businesses give consumers an easy way out, just as simple as it was to sign up. The FTC voted 3-2 along party lines to issue a click-to-cancel regulation, which eases the process of dumping unwanted recurring bills. FTC Chair Lina Khan said, too often businesses make people jump through endless hoops just to cancel a subscription. The FTC rule will end these tricks and traps. The regulation is aimed at subscriptions and memberships that automatically renew unless a consumer takes action to cancel them. Businesses will have to offer a cancellation method that is easy to find when the consumer seeks to cancel, the regulation says, without dictating what the option has to look like. Consumers can't be required to interact with a live or virtual representative, such as a chatbot, unless they consent to that step when they initiate the subscription. If a consumer is required to cancel over the telephone, the rule says sellers must be available during normal business hours to process the request. There were some people that opposed this rule, which it issued in March 2023, so they finally voted on it. Business groups said that the FTC overstated consumers' weariness with ending subscriptions. I'm going to disagree with that. I think canceling a subscription is a real pain in the ass, and kudos to, more and more I'm actually liking a lot of the things that Lina Khan is doing, to be honest, basically because of how big a lot of these big tech companies became. This was another issue when the FTC, was it either the FTC or the DOJ? I can't remember who went after Amazon. RJ, do you remember?
I think that was DOJ, but don't quote me on that.
But one of the things that they were talking about in that lawsuit was they pointed out that in order to cancel Amazon Prime, you have to go through at least 7 different screens to finally cancel it. I know that with canceling Facebook, for example, it takes 7 or 8 different steps in order to finally say, yes, get rid of this account.
What I want to know is, who were the 2 people who voted against this? Like, if it was 3-2, there were 2 people sitting up there like,
it's a long party. It was a long party lines. It was 2 of the 2 Republicans that opposed it, and again they've got. Well, I think their biggest concerns was that they think that the FTC is overreaching a little bit, that it might not be within their regulatory power, and that's a valid concern. But I think maybe that it'll probably, again, everything that happens these days in government, you get a rule and then it gets challenged and it goes through the court systems. So I'm okay with that on that side of things. But I do like the idea that, it should be easier to cancel a subscription, that Amazon number of steps, things like that. But there's a lot of streaming services that have learned that lesson and are doing this now anyway. I think for a lot of my streaming subscriptions, if I can't find it on the website, all you have to do is then do a Google search and it'll bring you right to the page where you can then cancel the subscriptions, because I'm on that on again, off again for a lot of these different services. Like, I just realized I haven't watched Max in like 4 months. I should probably cancel that.
I know, but there might be a show that I need to see next week. But one of the things I like about this, I feel is kind of buried. This really changes the competitive landscape. When you saw this with phones, you saw this with airlines. Anytime they make it easier to make a switch, then you get this whole new wave of competitiveness that comes out. So, I don't know exactly what it is, but if it's super easy for me to leave one streaming service and go to the other, does that sort of unlock a whole new chapter in streaming? Does it open the door for new players who are perhaps a little bit more nimble? I don't know. I feel it has in history, and this could be interesting.
Well, I mean, it's another point that there's now a number of apps and services that you can subscribe to or download the app, and it'll tell you, it'll monitor all of the subscriptions that you're paying for, and it will automatically cancel. I've seen some of those being advertised where it'll automatically cancel your Disney Plus if you want to. Like, it scans all of your, like, I think you could, if it's connected to your bank account and credit cards, it'll see what subscriptions you have. And I think some of the early examples of that new ChatGPT offering did it for a company, and they saw that there was a bunch of subscriptions that the CFO had that he didn't realize he had. So
maybe that bot that we talked about last week that would go out and apply for like 1,000 jobs, maybe after it's done doing that, it can go and like clean up your subscriptions.
I'm willing to bet right now that there are probably apps out there that already do this for you. Like, you could just look up at, because again, so many people, especially in the younger generations, and again, I don't want to sound like an old fart, but they do everything through their phone, and so they've probably subscribed. And the whole buy versus subscribe model, like almost anything that you're with now is a subscription, right? So obviously, if you're not paying attention to it, you might realize that, oh, geez, I haven't, like I just admitted, I haven't watched HBO Max in, probably 4 months, but I'm just too lazy to go and jump on the computer to unsubscribe and maybe go through 7 or 8 different screens. So maybe I would, benefit from an app like that. But I think that will generate some, and that will it generate enough movement for a company to go, maybe we need to have less expensive rates, or I don't know yet. I mean, that market is just evolving super, super fast.
No, I think
well.
I think what will happen is it'll force companies to put the unsubscribe next to the subscribe, because then people will appreciate it more.
Yeah.
So maybe it might help people, subscribe to their service more frequently than not, because they're probably thinking, well, when I subscribe, I know how to unsubscribe. So I'm going to subscribe, no problem.
Well, so when you use the term unsubscribe, that made me think of emails. And on every email, you get marketing emails, and RJ, as a marketing person, you can cover your ears if you want during this part. When I get an email and I was like, oh, I'm sick of these emails, I don't really need this anymore. Every now and then I just go through a phase where I just then start unsubscribing. And on every email, I think, is it required or not required? I'm not sure. RJ?
Yeah, no. So that has really changed dramatically in the last 5 to 10 years, both with EU legislation, the GDPR stuff.
Okay.
And then California has similar legislation. You cannot market to somebody, or legally, you cannot really market to somebody without their consent these days. But
okay, but the ability to find that unsubscribe link on an email, is that part of the rule as well? Like for something that I have subscribed to and I'm just sick of their emails. When I do this big wave, it's usually right around Black Friday, because a lot of companies, they don't send out tons and tons of marketing messages until you hit that Black Friday. And Black Friday and Cyber Monday for me is like, oh, here are all these subscriptions I didn't realize I had, or email subscriptions. So I'm wondering if maybe something similar will happen in the service space and the streaming, things like that.
I think the other thing you could see sort of like a wave of docents that are constantly knocking at your door, making sure that you're getting the most out of a service. So you and that HBO Max thing, would it make a difference if somebody was reaching out and saying, hey, there's a show you might like, or have you gotten the most out of this, or are you enjoying your service? Like, we'll probably see a little bit of an elevation of that kind of thing too.
Not actually physically coming to my door. I hope that's not what you're saying.
No, I meant electronically.
Okay, all right. Through email or through other kinds of communications?
I think it probably would align with whatever you
sign up for, right? Now, but I don't know if that's a good thing either. Like I prefer as a consumer to be in control of how I communicate with companies versus them just showing me tons and tons and tons of messages. So I guess there's that little fine line that you have to think about between those two. All right. Last topic for the week, because I have a really good rant here, in my mind at least. So porch pirates are stealing AT&T iPhones delivered by FedEx. Porch pirates across the country for months have been snatching FedEx packages that contain AT&T iPhones within minutes or even seconds of delivery. The key to these swift crimes, investigators say, the thieves are armed with tracking numbers. Another factor that makes packages from AT&T particularly vulnerable is that AT&T typically does not require a signature on delivery. Doorbell camera videos show the thefts in New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, Michigan, Florida, Texas. The details are all similar. A FedEx driver drops off a box with an iPhone from AT&T. Then a person walks up, sometimes wearing an Amazon delivery vest. I mean, that's brilliant. And plucks the package off of the front step. The heist can be so quick that in some of the videos, FedEx driver and the thief are crossing paths. This is great. So, quote, they know what's getting delivered and the location, said Detective Lieutenant Matt Arsenault from the Gardner Police Department in Massachusetts. That's like, right up the street from where I live. They meet the delivery driver at the front door and basically take it. Since the pandemic, parcel carriers have reported a rise in porch thefts as workers have returned to offices and fewer people are home during the day to receive packages. Now, a spate of thefts that began a few months ago is targeting FedEx deliveries for AT&T. The two companies said they were working with law enforcement, to investigate and decline to disclose how many packages have been stolen. So there's several layers of fault here that's going on. And what I also like about this, well, not like about this story, what I find interesting about this story is that a technology company deploys something that is supposed to help, and then it turns out that that's being used in a bad way. And then another technology company develops a technology to help catch those people. So the doorbell cameras, those took off because of porch pirates, right? It wasn't, and so now you've got technology that's battling other technologies, and now somehow these thieves are stealing tracking numbers and finding these things because people might not be at home. And then a lot of other, Amazon and FedEx and I think UPS now deliver to specific secured locations. If you were getting a lot of things stolen off your thing, you can now deliver it to one of those lockers if you're Amazon, or sometimes you can have it delivered to a secure store. I've seen that with some companies. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this? I'm like, am I crazy for seeing like this whole big, circular technology battle going on?
No, you and I are both on the same page. I mean, one of the questions I had that what I feel like it got mentioned but not followed through in the story is, how are they getting the tracking numbers? Like, are they hacking your email? Are they what's happening there?
As far as I could tell, they couldn't figure out how they were getting them, because AT&T said that they had no evidence of a data breach or any kind of breach. My best guess would be there's some kind of inside job going on. Like there's someone who maybe works for FedEx, or AT, there's some way that the tracking numbers are getting sent to people.
Yeah, I feel like there's some stats or analysts or something like that we can look at, like which ones are getting compromised and can we trace them back and just see if there's a commonality there. I don't know, but I share your frustration with this. I think this is an awful thing. Like this is just the scourge of humanity to walk up on somebody's door and take their mail.
I know.
But, maybe the solution is super low tech. Maybe it's those neighborhood watch groups that kind of,
like those come back into favor. Yeah, could be.
Why not? Like, just keep an eye out for your neighbors. Like, if you're home during the day, keep an eye out.
We have an old school security system. It's called our two dogs. That like if you come in within like 300 feet of our house, it's just we actually had to put a doormat down that says please don't ring the bell and get the dogs involved, just because that's how much they bark when anybody comes up to the front door. Like we have a ring, we obviously have a Ring camera too. But we don't. We also live in a neighborhood where I don't think that. Well, see, I don't want to tempt fate here, so I'm just going to say, dogs, great. The dogs are great. So the rant that I wanted to have is that it's now 2024 and the whole tracking code system is still like. And again, maybe it's just me because I've had this one specific problem. So here's what happened. I ordered a package from an online e-commerce site. So it was Lego.com. Okay. Ordered a set. And that's all I can say right now, because it's a gift for one of my family members. He doesn't really watch the show unless I put it up on Instagram. So anyway, so I made the mistake of having the package delivered to an old address. It was my old workplace address. Again, when you're ordering something really fast and you're going through that system, sometimes you forget to check the address that it's actually delivered to, especially if you've done things where you've delivered things to multiple places. So I get the invoice from Lego and they say it's going to go to your old business place. I was like, well, that's a problem. So now I want to try to fix the problem. So with UPS, I go on, and the only way that you can try to track, to change a delivery is to sign up for this thing called My UPS Choice. And I had to basically pay $20 for a year subscription, which I'm going to cancel as soon as I can now that we've figured out what's going on here. But then even then, when I finally got an update from them that said, oh, the tracking information is wrong, they recognized that for some reason it was wrong. UPS also told me back and that it had to be Lego that cancels the package. So again, now I'm on the phone with customer service, chat bots, human chat people. This took over 4 days to finally get this package delivered from the wrong place to the right place, because I knew that if it ended up in its final destination, that there was no way that UPS was going to help me. There was no way that Lego was going to help me, and someone was going to just, either take the box or I'd have to go and try to, figure out where it was. But my big rant is it's 2024 and we still haven't figured out really efficient ways for people to make mistakes and talk to customer services. Thank God I finally got in touch with a human at Lego.com who then, on the phone, I was telling her my frustration. So, and she was able to send this update and I got it delivered. So, Pamela, thank you for that, from Lego.com. You should get a bonus and a raise. So, that led me to think about this idea. Like, why have we not been able to fix a lot of these issues? Is it because the companies just don't have the level of problems, and this is I'm such an outlier in this case, or do they just might not care because of the volumes that they're doing? RJ, I'm throwing it to you.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something with the volumes, right? It's like fraud in the credit card companies. There's so much of it, but it's
that frustrates me too. All of the data breaches from credit cards.
Yeah, I mean they pay so much in fraud, but they don't care because it's a drop in the bucket compared to what they do. And I imagine that's the same scenario with delivery. It's but I hope it gets better. I mean, maybe we get those transporter beams working. That would be good.
Yeah, but yeah, right, exactly. Like, don't you think that, again, we had a technology company at the start of the show that was addressing, energy needs, and they finally saw enough of a problem where, like, let's just throw some money into this investment, and so that this might solve our problem down the road and create, new opportunities down the road. I just feel like there needs to be more of a tipping point or some kind of big event that gets all of these delivery companies to go, yeah, we need to fix this, or we need to at least have a better system for, making these updates and corrections. Now, but again, on the other hand too, allowing someone to change the address on a delivery when you haven't really fully confirmed if it's going to you or not. I mean, there's, that's ripe for fraud too, because now you could get hackers that could intercept, and, maybe that's why they've set up these restrictions, is because hackers were coming in and automatically changing. And so now I don't even, I might not even get the package because a hacker has redirected it. Maybe that's why there's such a problem now.
Yeah, and the other thing is probably logistics too, right? Because it goes through so many hands that once it's left that factory, Lego can't do anything about it.
Right.
And maybe it costs them a ton of money. But I wonder if there's a service that could go on top of that and just interact with every point along the way.
Do you find, like, from a consumer standpoint, do you find value in any of these tracking numbers? Does it help you along? Does it give you peace of mind? Or does it just be like, oh God, my package is still in China? Or oh man, why is it sitting in a warehouse in New Jersey? Like, does the addition of tracking numbers help anybody these days?
So for me, it's like the stop button in an elevator, right? It probably doesn't do anything, but it makes me feel a little better. So for expensive stuff, or like when you reorder your passport, or like the big important things, I'm hitting refresh on that tracking number like 7 times a day. But for like the stuff you order, paper towels, no, I don't care.
Yeah, you know what that reminded me of? There was another guest on our show who is the editor of Computer World, Ken Mingus. He does the same thing because every time there's a new iPhone, he does the whole orders it online, and he's hitting the refresh on the tracking because he just wants to know that it's that much closer to him. And so maybe that's the true benefit of a tracking code, is just, I mean, it did make me feel better when I knew that it was, no longer in New Jersey and it was closer to Massachusetts. But I still couldn't go and drive and pick it up. It was still, they still had these restrictions on me. So, yeah. If anyone out there, any viewers, if they can tell me the true value of tracking numbers for consumers, let me know. Or at least the need for me to see the entire journey, because I haven't really found much of a benefit from it. Chris, you got any thoughts? You on this before we sign off?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, I'd have to say the people who are stealing, these packages, they're horrible criminals because they don't have any face coverings. And the majority of houses have cameras. So I think, that's kind of like an easy fix right there.
The story did say that there were 2 teenagers that got caught and that were arrested, and they are being charged with felonies for doing a lot of this.
That's good.
But again, I think that's the volume question that comes up again. There's so much volume that these companies do that trying to, even I don't even think the police are investigating that much unless it's, a high value target like an iPhone. Yeah. For my Lego set, if someone stole that, it'd be like, it's $100. It's not that much.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's really amazing, and it's, sort of tangential here, but have you ever gotten the wrong thing? Like they've sent you the wrong thing, or they've sent something to you that should have gone to another address. You go and you try to send it back, and a lot of times they just replace it. Like if you ordered something, sent you the wrong thing, they just replace it and they say keep whatever it is. And I've had this happen for like small things like books and notebooks to big things like major pieces of furniture. They're like, throw it away if you want, keep it if you want, sell it if you want. So they're absorbing a ton. They're absorbing a ton of error.
There's when we were talking, when I was covering the robotics industry, there was a lot of research in the logistics space that said the costs for returns is higher than just sending a new one. Like that's how so you hear this with Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and then, after the holidays and everyone starts to return, like there's a billion, it's billions of dollars that are being spent on returns. And most companies were like, don't want to deal with it. I mean, I dealt with it with a lot of the PR people that I would work with for our holiday gift guide. They would be sending me a lot of technology and technically we weren't allowed to keep the devices that were being sent to us for review. And so some companies, they included a FedEx label to return it after we were done with it. But a lot of companies just said to me, just look, we don't want to have you send this back to us, because then, we're not going to be able to send it to a new person, or, it's just too much of a hassle and too much of a cost. So we ended up having, closets full of stuff. And what I ended up doing with this, I didn't keep a lot of, I didn't keep a majority of it, if any of it. We would have a little donation charity raffle, and people would donate money. We take the money from it, and then give all of that equipment away. So, I understand that, you've probably got a CFO somewhere going, the cost to return it is up here, and the cost to just send another one is down here. I'm going to save that money in that gap. And they probably do the same thing with the whole Porch Pirate thing.
Yeah. Well, when you get that demo unit of that Optimus robot, you should really think about it.
For me, it's going to be the cardboard robot suit. So, yeah. RJ, again, thanks again for being on the show this week. Good discussion. Thanks for being here.
Likewise. Thank you, guys. Nice chatting with you.
All right, and that's going to do it for this week's show. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, add your comments below, like the video, add any thoughts you have, et cetera, et cetera. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.